Hey everybody, welcome. I'm Michelle Perron and this is 15 Minutes, and I am really excited today because we have all the way from Galisteo, New Mexico, Lucy Lippard, who you all know as legendary for her deeply influential hybrid practice as a writer, curator, art advocate, cultural worker, activist, and organizer who really for 50 plus years has shaped the conversation on art practice and social justice. And she's got 9 honorary doctorate degrees, Lucy, from some pretty kick-ass institutions. So I don't think, I need to say any more. Lucy, it's an honor to Zoom with you today. Thanks for joining me.
No, thank you.
It's good to see you. So,
what I'm proudest of is not the honorary degrees, but the 25 books. That's my main contribution.
Well, I wanted to just keep it simple in terms of your bio, but I'll put that in the written bio then on YouTube. But 25 books plus, a lifetime of impact in so many ways. But here we are in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, right? And you live in Galisteo, where, I think social distance is a way of life. So I'm curious about how your daily life has changed in the COVID age.
Mine, of course, hasn't changed that much because I stay home and write and walk the dog. But after about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I see friends. I see my partner who lives in town and so forth. And he's less good at following the rules than I am. But life hasn't changed that much.
You follow the
rules? Galisteo.
That's surprising.
The masks, the watching, this or that. But Galisteo, of course, is rural. And I run into people walking their dogs. And we just don't get together for drinks anymore.
Right. So. Tell me how the Native American community is faring with COVID.
Very badly. The Navajo Nation is just in a terrible shape.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really awful. It's bad here in Detroit too. Just, getting better, but, I think we're in for the long haul, all of us. So I first discovered your work by reading 6 Years, and I won't read the whole title, but The Dematerialization of the Art Object, which for me it changed my life. The art world knows you as a critic, or as you say, advocate, but you went from considering art to the critical sort of history of the landscape to then considering land use and the idea of community. And I'm curious about your trajectory. You've called it a collage aesthetic. So how do you go from, art to where you are now?
Well, it's all the same trajectory, really. I just have always sort of taken off in the direction that interests me. And wherever I go, there are artists who are working on these issues, and I can write about them. So it's been very easy.
Yeah. You've said in the past about the idea that you should one should take responsibility for the place you find yourself. Does your recent work stem from that notion? You've been writing a lot about sort of land use, and now you've written one book, and I think you're on your second, writing about Galisteo itself, the town.
Yes, and I wrote one with a photographer, Peter Goen, on Chaco Canyon, and I've written a lot of essays and things that have Galisteo or New Mexico in them. But back to the collage thing, which I didn't really answer. I've always felt that women's lives, and especially women who are single mothers, which I was for quite a long time, automatically have a collage. You're writing away and then something happens over here and you stop and you deal with the kid, or you start thinking about what you're going to have for supper. And I did a couple of experimental fictions called New York Times about this way of life. Oh. So I've gotten although I dislike the internet and I don't do Facebook or any social media or anything, it's the internet is an extremely collage situation, and it is familiar in that sense.
Yeah, you're an activist in myriad ways, and have been for as long as we've known the public, Lucy Lippard. Where do you put your change-making energy these days?
Well, for years now, it's really been very low key. It's in Galisteo itself. I have it's a wonderful community. There are only 260 people in the village, and
wow.
I've done some work with committees and so forth, but I'm in the fire department auxiliary, the bake sale part of the fire department. I have been for 20 some years.
The bake sale department?
Well, it's the auxiliary. We're not firefighters.
Sure. Okay.
And I've edited the monthly newsletter, community newsletter, for 24 years, and I'm on the water board. I've done planning committee stuff and so on. So that
Water board. That must
yeah,
be interesting.
we have a mutual domestic water consumers association, which is how little villages in New Mexico get their water. It's under state control and so on. But so that's all very challenging.
Yeah.
And all of it was 20 years ago very new to me, doing this kind of thing. But it's compelling.
Yeah. You know, often when people mention you, they talk about your saying that, you know, you have a habit of sitting down with people at the kitchen table and suddenly founding a group or an organization or something. Has that remained true for you out in New Mexico?
I promised myself when I moved to New Mexico that this was not going to be the case anymore, but the newsletter did happen. And that's about it. And I have local activist friends who, when stuff comes up, we do things, and we have a demonstration signs that one of them, my neighbor Peggy Diggs, the artist, made. It says, "We need an adult in the White House. Where is she?"
Oh man, no kidding.
And the one that we usually use, and that several of us use, is says the Galisteo gals are up in arms, and we have our arms.
Excellent.
Anyway,
excellent.
So we continue to do demonstration stuff and so on, but I can't call myself a global activist anymore.
Well, but your impact is still felt, certainly. You know, you mentioned the White House with the future of our country literally in the balance. What do you think is going to happen in November?
It's who knows? It's really going to be a crapshoot. Yeah, I am not fond of Biden, but I'll hold my nose and vote for him. And
another old white guy.
I hope that he gets his. Well, an old white guy who's not very progressive and so forth.
Right. Right.
We had wonderful choices and we didn't pick them. So
yeah, exactly. I agree with you. Who were you interested in? Elizabeth, is that?
Oh, Elizabeth, yeah, and I wish he would take her for his vice president, but she'd be a handful.
Yeah, well,
it doesn't sound like she's going to, but she's willing. So
yeah.
Who knows?
So, you know, here we are in this major global crisis, you know, that's really shaken us all to the core. And I'm thinking about the idea of revisiting the legacy of Roosevelt's New Deal and, you know, what it did with and for culture. Any thoughts about that?
Well, I don't see anybody leading that at the moment. The Green New Deal is a great idea, but it obviously does not include culture that I've heard of anyway. And somebody who's a lot younger than me is going to have to get up and do it, I guess, or try to do it. I mean, maybe if Biden wins, and I think it's iffy if he does, but he might pull together something like that if he has a good vice president. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. You've said that art can't change the world, but it can be a very strong ally for unconventional ways of looking at the world. So are there any works of art, works from art history that you think would be apt to consider these days?
My nose goes blank when I'm asked that kind of question.
Yeah.
All of art history is passing before my eyes.
Yeah. Well, or, you know, like I'm sitting in front of my Jackson Pollock painting here. Of course, it's not mine, but yeah, I mean, there's going to be, I think it's incredible, the creativity that's coming out of this era, this time, this pandemic, what artists and institutions and organizations are doing, I think is really beautiful and interesting. And so I expect to see a lot more of that. Now, on another note, I know that you're working on organizing your archive. And so I'm curious how a literary artist, you know, prepares and preserves your work for when you're not around anymore.
Well, it's never been something I've been particularly interested in, but the fact remains that my small workroom is totally filled up, and the wonderful Mira Burak, an artist who was from Detroit, and you know, was helping me, but then this all hell broke loose and she can't come over. And so I don't do anything about about it. I mean, we've been trying to I mean, I've been involved with so many different subjects. The Archives of American Art is taking what they take, but then I've got all these books and odds and ends and posters, and we did, another friend is helping me with the non-art stuff, and we did send a bunch of posters off to the Center for the Study of Political Graphics in LA, which is a wonderful thing. So, so very slowly, I got rid of a whole bunch of pillows yesterday for the animal shelter. Like,
good.
Exactly rival, but I'm a total pack rat in every sense, and so it's a real mess out there.
Like MoMA bought. Well, I hope they bought it. The Franklin Furnace Archive. Would you be considering any institutions like that might be?
No, I don't see. I shouldn't be making money off this. It's all other people's stuff, but. I am trying to work it out with Michelle Elligood at MoMA, and it's partly my fault that it isn't worked out because I forget about these things. But I have a lot of Native American things because I've been writing on Native American artists since 1980 or so, and I decided, I asked the IAI, Institute for American Indian Arts here, if they wanted the Native stuff, and they said, no, we have a lot of Native stuff. We'd like more of the contemporary art. So they're getting a bunch of stuff.
Wow.
And then MoMA, I asked MoMA if they would take the Native American stuff on the condition that they build on it, because I know that nobody in the East has almost any idea of what the hell it's all about.
Sure.
And only knows the artists who are showing in big galleries and so forth. So,
right.
So I'm hoping that MoMA will take that. It's mostly files and books and images and stuff.
Well, they should,
so,
because that was your first job, wasn't
it? Yes, it was. But that doesn't hold much water anymore. I don't think. That was in 1958.
In the library, right?
No, yeah, in the library.
Yeah.
And the University of Michigan just took all of our slides, which Mira was immensely helpful in.
Oh, great. The Hatcher Library? Is it?
It's the art school, the stamps art.
Oh,
I think
fabulous.
maybe I was there, and I went to a huge library. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah.
But it's something like 35,000 slides. So, and they're digitizing them. So that's wonderful.
Oh,
and then,
great. I was going to ask you if you still use slides and slide projectors.
Well, I do PowerPoint now, and I get most of the
stuff. Well, see, you are getting computer literate, so that's great.
Well, I've done that 10 or 12 years, but that's all I can do.
Yeah, that's great, though. Last question. You were in Detroit back in 2014 for the CCS Woodward Lecture Series, and I took you on a tour of many of Detroit's, at the time, fledgling sort of projects related to art and urban farming and social practice. And I know you saw and experienced a lot of things that interested you. I'm wondering if you if there's anything that stands out or that has resonated with you about Detroit now 6 years later. No pun intended.
I wish my memory was so good. Unfortunately, I've done an awful lot of other stuff since then, but I remember the edible hut, and I remember going around to people's little houses, which, they bought for $100 or something. But of course, that's all very well for the artists, but you worry about the people whose houses they were. So,
absolutely.
Today, I mean, I worry about people. We're surrounded by people who've lost their jobs and can barely eat. It's really
honestly, well, and even before all of this, it was happening. And I would imagine, the gentrification that's, has always happened in New York, that's certainly happening in Detroit. And in a way, I feel like it must be happening in Galisteo or in some of the areas surrounding you.
Oh, definitely. Galisteo I've been here about 28 years, and it's been gentrified tremendously since then.
Yeah.
And Santa Fe, of course, has always been gentrified to an extent. So.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, Lucy, it's been 15 minutes, and I'm thrilled that you joined me today. So thank you so much, and I wish you all the best out there.
I'm thrilled that we could actually make it work, because
I know.
I've had failures at Zoom, but
me too. So thanks everybody for joining us. See you next time.